Hey guys, so in this video we are going to talk about being a people pleaser. Let's get into it. So something that I see quite a bit when I work with the amazing men and women of programming or software development basically is that they are very good-hearted people. I think that it seems to be a red thread through and through this entire industry that the people that work in IT are usually people who are very interested in being accommodating, to help people, to make people happy, if you will. And I mean, that's exactly why I got into programming to begin with. I wanted to have the skill set to be able to build things that help people out or solve their problems. So be the go-to guy for all things that somebody could need help with, basically. And that that is very true for a lot of people, as I can see out here in the world. And I mean, just in my office is the same thing. Some of them are, and it adds to this, that's, a lot of programmers are a little bit introvert. They're like, they're not necessarily going to be the life of the party, and they are people pleasers, a lot of them, and some of them don't like confrontation. I'm not saying that everybody is like this, but it does seem to be the trend. And this is a good thing and a bad thing at the same time, because I have seen firsthand how being this type of people pleaser can really mess things up for you. And I wanted to touch on that a little bit. So if you are the sort of person who, if your boss comes over and says to you, yeah, I want you to fix this and that and like change your scope and all these different things, very often you'll see, at least I see that, I see that all the time, where the programmer becomes a little bit apologetic and very accommodating and tries to to accommodate the requests of the person who are asking for all these extra features or the different things that they basically want to be fixed. And what happens most commonly is that either the scope changes, like the deadline is like you get closer to the deadline, and I see programmers who need to stay late, or they have to, a worst case scenario is that they are actually forced in a position where the same person who asked for all these favors come back, and then they kind of go, why aren't you finished? Like, why is this taking so long? And basically the programmer, again, who is the people pleaser, has to apologize for not being fast enough. And here I'm sitting as the third party, and I can see, well, if you come, the issue wasn't that, we're behind schedule. The issue is that that other person came in and changed things, which made, the initial, like because every time you change something about code or something of that, you do something with software, you have to retest it, you have to revalidate. Like, there's a bunch of stuff that needs to happen in order for us to be for the software developer or the programmer to be, confident that everything is working. Because in theory, every time you change software, you have to account for the possibility that you broke something, and that is something that is very tricky for non-technical people to understand, because to them what they're asking for is this tiny little thing, but they don't understand the whole scope of how much is actually involved in that. And I think that's a sickness in general in our world. Like, I've tried to train myself to appreciate the work that goes into whatever it is. My favorite thing is when somebody says that something, I mean, people call movies crappy, or, they call video games crappy and stuff like that. And it's fine. I mean, I'm not saying that everything creative that comes into our world is great, but I try to remember basically I try to just, this is my thought. If you ever feel that you want to like really crap over something like a movie or a game or something like that, just sit through, play the game or watch the movie, and then just wait until all of the name, like the credentials, sorry, not the credentials, the aftertext is like all the names of all the contributors. When that is done, just sit back, watch that, and just think about that each of those names is a person who was involved in creating the thing that you're just crapping over. Then you start realizing how much work goes into even producing things that you think is crap. There are so many things going on in order for even to be able to even produce something like that. And to me, that's a healthy exercise, because that makes me, I get more humble about, really monstrous tasks. And this, being a software developer helps a lot with this. And I also appreciate really good movies and really good games even more, because I know how difficult it is to get something that big right. It's really tricky. And usually that is something that is very difficult for non-technical people. So this is at least to me, where you need to start to kind of, I think that one of the core ways of solving this issue is that it's very important for you to have, to provide your software developers with some type of project manager or team lead or somebody like that who can prioritize the work. Because the issue is that if the boss, if the manager or the sales guy comes to the programmer and does all that stuff, he puts the programmer in a bit of a predicament. The programmer now has to do extra work and maybe actually create some issues compromise the quality of his or her own work in order to accommodate the requirements of somebody who should really not be talking to the programmer about changing the scope of their work, but rather put in a request to whoever is in charge of the product. So this is where I want to talk to you as an engineer, and I would suggest that if you have somebody who comes to you and asks you to change things, to just help you with that little thing and all that, if you want to be a pal, yeah, sure, do it. But trust me, long term, it's going to hurt you. Because if you start just catering to the whims of people left and right without them actually understanding how much work it is for you to solve these things, you're going to burn yourself out. Or worse, you're going to compromise something's going to have to give sooner or later. You can't keep everybody happy. So try to use your project, communicate that to your project manager or to your product owner, whoever is, or your team lead, and just whenever somebody comes to you asking for you to fix this little thing, you just look at it. If it really is the smallest thing in the world, do it just to be nice. But if it's something that's even the slightest bit trickier than something that you just do in 5 minutes, tell them that, sorry, I would love to help you out, but right now I'm working on something different. But if you want to put in a request and see, because I can change from what I'm doing right now, I just want to make sure that my project manager knows that you're asking me to do this instead of the thing that my project manager wants me to do. So can't you talk to that person and you can kind of agree on which one is more important, and I'll switch accordingly. What happens, it's a subtle thing, but what happens is that now you created a little bit of a process for the person making the request, which means that if it really is important, they're going to have to push it through. If it's just a nothing thing that they don't really care about, they're going to drop it basically. And what's even better is that now you're allowing your team lead or your project manager to make the decision for you, which one is more important. So you have your back free, and everybody becomes more productive, and it becomes more transparent to everybody around you what's going on. Because if you're fixing all these tiny little things in between doing your actual work, that's lost in translation. People won't know that from everybody else's perspective, it looks like you're working on the same thing, when in fact you're not. You're working on 3, 4, 5 different favors for other people, plus the thing that you're supposed to be working on. So that's my tip. This is especially important if, as I said, you're a people pleaser, or if you're a junior developer. When you feel that urge to make people happy and stuff like that, always ask yourself the question, is it really a small thing? Can I do it in 5 minutes or something? Yeah, absolutely, do it. If it's bigger than that and it's going to take chunks out of your work time, check in. I just direct the request to whoever is in charge of organizing the work and just have them make the decision for you, because trust me, it will be easier for you in the long term.